Crews. Okay, I did not. Okay, perfect. Okay, so my name is Camila Crews. I am the founder and chief grief officer at Sorry for Your Lost Cards, which is a grief wellness brand just here to really open up the conversation about grief. And I was inspired to start it after I lost my parents and being in a grief group and seeing that there was a very big gap between the person who was being supported and the person who needed the support. And so it started off as cards, but really has now evolved into more of a full wellness brand. Yes, so that's who I am. And I will let you introduce yourself, my amazing guest.
Thank you. My name is Myeoshe Edwards. I'm the founder and executive director of 501c3 called F.A.C.E. It stands for Fearless Against. Our mission is to help individuals become independent, fearless, assertive, just exposing them to self-love. That way they become skin without fear, but knowing that all parts within them. We specialize and equipped in personal development, financial literacy, transportation, mental health, and also just in mental health, creating a safe and platform for Let's Talk About Grief. And grief stands for grace, restoration, inner exportation of favor. And I just started this growing up in South Central LA and going through the hardships that I went through, and just thinking as I got older, not having that person, that place, and that connection. And God gave me the vision for Face, and I just believe it's just a platform for me to just tell my truth and the experiences that I have experienced. And I am so elated to be here today.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you for being here. I know it's like so kind of serendipitous how we met. So we met actually because someone had sent me your flyer saying, "Oh, I should attend Let's Talk About Grief." And then I know I wasn't able to go to the first one, and then we ended up just having an amazing conversation out of it. You reached out to me, like, "Hey, I didn't see you there, but we should connect." And I was like, I was gonna do the same thing. So I'm so
Yeah.
glad. And then I know after we talked, we you actually invited me to be on the panel, which I just think was so beautiful because it just people experiencing grief through loss, and for us to have like a really great conversation. And I will say one of the things that I loved about it was that we were able to have a conversation. Even though obviously grief, there's nothing funny about it. Well,
Yeah.
it has its funny moments, I could say that. But the fact that you the women that were all there, we all had laughter and commonalities. Like we were able to come to a place where we were able to laugh and enjoy each other. So I really appreciated the space that you were able to provide for us there, and just the fact that you know it's something that you do quite often. So I just want to say I appreciate you for creating the space and inviting me to be on a panel. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and thank you for sharing your truth with us. I appreciate that because sometimes it's not easy.
It's not easy at all. And then, we start talking, and we're like, oh my goodness, we both lost our parents, and just trying to navigate through that. And how, just even from that short time, which I think was in the spring, we've just established a really great sisterhood of checking in on each other
Yeah.
and hanging out. And just, it's really nice because even though we have so many different conversations, it's not rooted in grief, but it's just great that when we are together, we're able to just, it's someone that understands what I'm going through if there is that opportunity, or if I do need to talk about it.
Right.
Um, so let's dive in. Let us dive into the clips because so
Yes.
I am from, listen, I'm an East Coast girly, millennial. So when the clips were, I was in college. Okay. So it was Thursday at midnight, and I'm like, I'm ready to put my ugly face on. Like, I already know, like, they're back 16 years. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited, telling my friends, like, hey, like guy friends, like, do not bring out the throwback jerseys and the long white tees. Like, this is not what we're here for. Like, I'm over here just like, literally trying to, this is what I'm prepared for. Absolutely, Woodypedia, it is the best opening track in a while. So literally, then all of a sudden I'm like, first of all, whenever John Legend start crooning, you already know, like, okay, what's
Right.
about to happen. And of course, I'd heard their interviews. I've been watching a lot, but like when I tell you, I was weeping. I'm sitting on my couch, like, I know they didn't just do this to me. Like, just and especially like I literally wrote down the lines where like when push says lost in emotion, mama's youngest, trying to navigate life without my compass. Like I am my mother's youngest child, and
Yeah.
when I lost my mother, I was just like, I was very numb, I have to admit. So, funny enough, that line was more so for my dad, is how I felt when I
Yeah.
lost my father, because my father raised me. But then, like, with some experience death and feel numbness, but not me, I felt it all and couldn't function. That's also how I felt because with my, it was interesting because like I lost my mom in 2001, then my
Okay.
dad in 2022, and so the numbness was with my mom. Like I just was like, just kept going, just kept going, just pushing through. And then with my dad, it was when I was like debilitated. Like I could not do anything. So to hear this, and I think this is like the first four bar, like this is the very beginning of the song.
Yes.
So what did it do for you when you heard the song?
To be honest, I avoid listening to it because I had
Mm-hmm,
other friends and colleagues, and then just watching it on the social media. I think I follow DJ Kosh, and she
mm-hmm,
was like, she reposted the song and was like, when I heard it, I cried, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not ready for
mm-hmm.
that. And
Yeah.
I literally listened to it, and when Pusha T first comes on and he talks about the conversation he had with his mother, and what really
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
struck me was when he mentioned that she kept saying that she was tired but wasn't ready to go. I felt
mm-hmm,
that because I lost my mother in January of 2022, and I lost my dad in April of
mm-hmm,
2022. So I remember being on the phone with my mother and while she was in the hospital of a couple of days before she passed, and she kept saying she was tired, and it was a different type of feeling when she said this because she has went to the hospital before, but it was a different type of feeling this type of round. So when he read that, and I knew she wasn't ready to go because my little sister was about to bring a baby, her first baby.
mm-hmm,
So I knew
mm-hmm,
she was tired, but I knew she was also anxious for the blessing that was coming in. So when he said that, it just like pierced my soul because it's like
mm-hmm,
I literally felt that. And then also like little things that were just happening, like the conversations me and my mom was having, the things that
mm-hmm,
it was like little when you look back at it, little signs were happening. So
mm-hmm.
I can relate to that. And then also when Miles come in and he talks about the breakdown of his father, just like uh how he found his father, even though I didn't find my father, but I was able to watch my father deteriorate because
Mm-hmm.
after my mother passed, his cancer just came back out of nowhere, and it came rapid. And when Pusha T said he knew that his father couldn't live without his mother, I remember my dad telling me, Mick, I miss my friend. And
Mm,
I didn't even get it then, but now I get it now after his transition, the way that it happened. Like that's some type of love you can't
mhm.
describe. And though they were separated, and how they even mentioned that their parents wasn't even
They weren't
together,
together anymore.
and
Mhm.
just how he says the knock on the door and finding his father the way that he did, and then me watching my father deteriorate. Literally,
Mhm.
after I found out my father cancer came back rapidly, you thinking you have a month, 2 months, I had 3 weeks.
Mm.
3 weeks, and in that 3 weeks, watching him from talking to not talking to walking to not walking to, you get what I'm saying, I
Yeah.
can imagine. And those those portraits would never go away, and
Mhm.
I can relate to Pusha T because I'm pretty sure that would never go away. But yeah, it's hard to hear something that it's piercing to the soul where you actually been through it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's different when you just listen to it and you ain't been through that experience, but when you actually been been in that shoe and felt
Mhm.
those feelings, it's kind of emotional attachment. because I
Yeah.
think I told you before, I think after my mother or father transition, I remember watching an interview with Pusha T, and it was Charlamagne the God. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my first time hearing that his mother had transitioned. And I remember Charlamagne the God asking Pusha T, have you went to therapy? And
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't. He was like, no, but it was, you can tell the hurt and pain because he shed it one tear. Just like, I couldn't do nothing but cry because it's like, I feel you. And
Yeah.
from that day forward, when you meet people and connect with people, you have no right but to pray for them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So birds don't sing. It's a life changing, and to see two black men
Yeah.
talk about it in such a great platform, it shows you that for such a time as this, that it is very much needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought up so many good points, like just in terms of it's what they're known for in general, right? Like they're known for coke rap. Like literally, I asked someone yesterday to listen to it, was like, "Oh, this is the subject matter they're gonna talk about. I'm not ready for it." I said, "You
Yeah,
need to listen to this song. Like, listen to the song. I'm like, at the very least, listen to POV and Birds Don't Sing. Like, start there." But the other piece of it just being like two black men being vulnerable enough to do this, right? Like I even see, and they also performed it on Jimmy Fallon, which I thought was a huge move, because that's not even the first visual that they put out, and I couldn't even watch it because I was like, oh, this is too much. Like it was triggering to me to see that. I was like, it's their parents, it's not my parents, right? But it was still very much like, oh my goodness, this is they're putting grief on such a broad stage, which I believe is just amazing because we're grieving every single day.
yeah,
However, we're usually not talking about it. We get equipped to drive and so many things as we're preparing ourselves for adulthood, but we are not equipped to lose the people that brought us here, the people that we are 50% of each. Then they're going to leave us one day just naturally, but then we don't know how to cope with it. And there I therapy was extremely helpful for me. I am someone that believes that therapy is a master class on self, but for our community it also can be something that people just don't have a trust in from a healthcare
yeah,
perspective. And then also, I was looking at some stats from like the National Association, National Alliance of Mental Illness, and they said that like 63% of Black people believe that mental health is a sign of personal weakness. And while grief is not a mental health condition, you can develop condition. Like for me, after my father's loss, I was diagnosed with massive depressive disorder, major depressive disorder, excuse me, and anxiety. And I functioned very well. I did amazing in my career, but my high functioning depression then went to major depressive, which
right,
basically is like when you feel like you can't do things, whereas high functioning, you're still able to do things. And then anxiety, because I overthink everything, that I've had to literally shift and say, okay, my anxiety helps make me detail oriented, and my depressive disorder allows me to rest when I need to because I can't push through like I used to. So there was naturally shame around it. I'm the first
right,
generation child of Jamaican immigrants. Like we don't know what mental
yeah.
conditions are, right? We're very much like you overachieve, but I had to like sit back and say, okay, how am I going to channel this, and how can I rethink it? Because it's not that something is wrong with me. I'm just functioning differently because I do not have my parents any longer. That is a huge shift in your life that no one can prepare you for.
When I say a huge transition, can you imagine for 35 years, this is your first home, your first base,
Hmm.
and they're not here. I can totally agree with you when it comes to therapy. I didn't start going to therapy until the transition of my parents. I remember after my mother transitioned, I remember walking out the hospital with my little sister at the time when she was pregnant. I remember walking out and thinking to myself in my head that you're not going to be able to do this alone. Like I
Hmm.
remember saying like, I'm not going to be able to do this alone. I'm not going to be able to like put up a front. Like, girl, you just lost your, like, I just lost my best friend. Like I just lost
Hmm.
my mother. And I remember like saying that, like, I'm not going to be able to do this alone. I'm going to need help. And at
Mhm.
that time, you're thinking, for me, I'm thinking, I have my dad. My dad was right there. So can you imagine losing your mother, your dad coaching you through, and plus I'm a PK kid. So
Mhm.
my dad telling me, Mick, you did nothing wrong. He's coaching me through. He's right there every step of the way. And then, a month later, 2 months later, he's gone. So
Yeah.
I remember, like, after that, like, yeah, I'm going to need therapy. But at the same time, I did go to therapy. And I think most people that do go to therapy, I remember going to therapy, and it was a group session, and it was just
Mhm.
us, like,
Yeah.
that lost parents. I remember going, and it was good. It was hopeful, but it wasn't helpful because the days that I was uplifted and happy, it was a Debbie Downer.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And then, like, finding someone that was helpful for me, and when I did, I didn't know. I want to say the top of last year. That's when I realized that I was avoiding my grief
Mhm.
because I wouldn't look at my parents' pictures.
Same.
I
Mhm.
wouldn't listen to their voicemail, their voices. I just wouldn't. And I remember, and I thank God for my therapist today. I remember my therapist telling me that, Myeoshe, if you don't face your grief, you are going to self destruct. You
Mm.
cannot avoid something that was your life. You cannot avoid that. You cannot just ignore your life. You're going to have to face that. And I realized, do I want to self-destruct? And what was helpful for me is that I had my dad to coach me through my grief in his last days. We were able to have conversations. He was able, to talk to me and tell me, I did nothing wrong, and to coach me and to tell me, like, Mick, you must be something. God got something big for you for this to happen in this
Mhm.
way. Like, and I just can't wait. I think that was very helpful for me because I feel like if God would have just took them, I don't think where I would be. So I feel like the way the transition was very helpful and soothing to my needs. Now that I look back at it, like, my dad used to tell me, like, we're having a Joshua and Moses moment. Like, my dad
Mm.
would tell me, like, Mick, I need you to be strong and courageous.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I know it doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
It doesn't look good, but I need you to be strong. And I feel like his words, the days that I'm pretty sure you wake up and don't want to do nothing, those ring so strongly in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just to go back to other methods or additional methods, right? When it comes to how people are grieving, like it's just so different, right? And I think especially like having this cultural competency when it comes to people of color, specifically Black people, that we're carrying so much with us. So whether it's a um, distrust of a system, and now you have to bring the hardest parts, or if you've just been raised to be stoic, and now there's this expectation that in grief the stoicism is just going to wash away, right? There are like a lot of other cultural
Yeah.
implications, and I'll say, like, through my mother's death, I just numbed. I ignored everything. I was just like, oh, we're not dealing with this. But then 21 years later, literally, had that was when I got to the point where I was like, to your point, I'm going to self destruct if I don't get help. So I had to hone in on therapy. But for us, there's so many other things, whether it's church, whether it's movement,
Yeah.
whether it's music, like this song Birds Don't Sing is a perfect example. We don't know whether or not Pusha T and Malice have actually had therapy, but we could tell that this is a therapeutic moment within the song, right? Like I likened it to them, this being the choir, and also there being the
Yeah.
evangelist, that they are church people. But I feel like Mouse has been very specific that he's spiritual. He's about God, not necessarily about the setting. But if we do put that in church, I'm like, because someone said yesterday, they were like, this is a grief hymn. That's how they heard this song,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like you have they're making wherever you are the church, essentially, or wherever you are the spiritual place, because the amount of emotion that comes out of it, and them to be able to use their creativity and rap, like, I feel like you can literally see it when they perform it or when they talk about it, because they're doing this rounds of interviews that we used to see like circa 10, 20 years ago, when everyone's going to a number of major places and they're talking about it all the time. So it is feeling like, to me, that there is a therapeutic feeling of them being able to talk about it and to share it with other people along the way. And then obviously by proxy of these large platforms that they're on, we the audience are also able to hear from them, which is just validating, because I think that is a big part of grief, is like the isolation of feeling like no one else is going through this. We don't, no one understands it. And then to have two major artists say it, because I honestly didn't even know they lost both their parents until this song, but it does
Right.
give you like kind of this groundedness to know that they're going through it and that they're open enough to speak about it. Especially, I would love to get your thoughts on, I know we're two Black women, but just like two Black men and like them grieving publicly and being able to do that and kind of creating the space, and kind of what you think about them being able to do that.
Um, I think then that they're able to grieve that type of grief because once again, like parents, like, and I can just imagine just hearing birds don't sing, and I'm pretty, it sounds like they had a real tight, close
Hmm.
knit relationship with their parents. The way that Mollis come in and says that he lost his compass, like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I feel you. I feel like I lost my, my true, two strong pillars. To see that and to see these two major artists grieve the way that they're grieving, but how they handle it after so many years. Their
Hmm.
parents didn't just transition.
Yeah.
I don't want to quote or whatever, but I think it's been like 3, maybe 4 years.
Yeah,
That it's been, and
2021
to
and 2022.
yeah, and
4 months apart.
right, and to see that they're still they still have a functioning of faith, great faith at that, and to be vulnerable, to come out and speak their truth, because I always say that to you all the time. It's not easy to talk about your parents. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I have colleagues and friends that you when they mention their parents, they can't stop crying. Some people say like, I don't even want to go there because if I go there, I'm not going to be able to stop. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's like, I understand that and get that. But to see two Black men come out after a couple of years and express the loss in such great magnitude, and to see them still being at their best, at their excellent potential, like even greater, like to see, like y'all, like
Hmm.
to see y'all, and then on an even greater, it's just like, man, so much favor on their lives. And I do believe, when God takes such a such great magnitude like that, our parents, I believe, like, we have so much great favor and excellence over our lives, and I'm able to see and witness it through them, and it
Hmm.
gives me more hope and more joy what God is going to do, in your life, in my life, and everybody else that has lost such a great magnitude of that force.
Yeah, and I see like Wikipedia, and to hear her commenting on like, damn, I had a dad, with that line, right? Like you could tell that they had like a very, very solid relationship with their father, and they talk so much about how he was such an important person, not only in their lives, but their friend. Like he served as a surrogate dad
Right.
for their friends, and then for them not to have it. And I went back and watched a little bit of the Charlemagne and Pusha interview, and Pusha's son was born during a pandemic. So then to have like this life come, and then you have these two major losses with the loss of your mother and your father. I can only imagine what that must be like, and becoming a new dad. Like that is a lot, and I just hope that other Black men will actually take the take inspiration from how they have started this conversation and feel comfortable enough to share their grief, whatever settings that looks like, for even if it's among themselves, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to necessarily be on a public platform, but just knowing that, I at least for me personally, and I know the relationships with interpersonal relationships with men and women are function extremely differently, but being in community and not having isolation is just such a helpful part of the grieving process. So I know we need to wrap soon, but one of the things that I definitely want us to talk about is like you building your business and your organization and doing it from a place of grief, right? Like I know for me, the whole genesis of Sorry for Your Lost cause just came from me coping with loss and being in a grief group, and then seeing that regardless of race or economic status, we all just felt like we didn't know how to ask for help. We
Right.
didn't feel like, but at the same time, didn't feel supported, but at the same time, didn't know how to bring things up. So for me, I was just like, okay, if I'm having this problem, all of these people are having this problem. How do we provide a space where we can talk about grief? Because that is the biggest thing. It feels like it's just like this thing you push to the corner, but it's something we all go through. And it's like, it's okay to talk about it. Like, even if you haven't lost a person, maybe you've lost a job, maybe you've lost a home, like there's something you lost where you sat in grief, whether or not you recognize that as the emotional trigger or tie. And within our community specifically, I feel like we are just taught to like, okay, just put it on your back
Yeah.
and just keep going, keep going, keep going. And it's like, we cannot, I like to say, like, I ran out of my push through, like, even being an overperformer, even high achieving, even reaching all these things, like it's like a car. You're going to run out of gas. So
Yeah.
do you want to pull over at the gas station before the car runs out of gas, or do you want to be stranded on the highway and then try to figure it out? So it's like, how do we take these preventative measures to be in touch with ourselves and claim the feelings and say them, and know that at the very least, I used to be so strong in my stoicism and feel as if, oh, I'm strong. So
Yeah.
this is where my strength lies. But it was easy for me to say there was nothing wrong when I was literally falling apart on the inside, versus to say I'm having a terrible day today and I need some help. That to me takes way more to do than saying that I'm okay.
Yeah, I think one part of the things about grief is just being honest with yourself, right? I think sometimes going through grief, we're not honest with ourselves, and that was me. Like I have to play this strong role. I believe like after my dad transitioned, I was much so in like survival mode because at the same time, life was then, I didn't have anyone to run to because then trying to figure this life out by myself. Um, but I going to therapy has helped me to be real honest with myself, to wake up and if I'm not feeling okay, and then if somebody asks me to be honest, not say like I'm good, I'm fine, like no, I don't feel good today, like I miss my mama, I miss my
Mhm.
daddy, like I wish they were here, so that I can talk to them. I remember the year that towards the end of the year when my parents transitioned, feeling like I had nothing to live for, because if I as a grown woman and entrepreneur and being very successful, like I'm not married, I don't have children, and everything I'm doing is like you're really doing for your parents, like everything that I'm achieving, I'm achieving for my parents, to not saying I was doing it intentionally, but at the same time, like
Mhm.
you want to make your parents proud of you, and having a self identity crisis, right? Like, "Ooh, now what am I supposed to do?" And
Mhm.
then also realizing that I had purpose. So that's where F.A.C.E come along. Like realizing that at the end of the day, God gave me a vision and He gave me purpose, and that I should transmute that pain into the power of my purpose, so that um, I can help other people and serve other people, and just turn that pain into something powerful. And that's how Let's Talk About Grief got formed. Just trying to use my platform and the hurt that I have to share
Mhm.
with others, because I love like the song, like hearing that I think Pusha T mentioned his son would never meet his grandmother. I don't have children. My mother and father would never experience that. I would never experience having my mother and my father help me out. I would never experience them being at my wedding. Like, big moments.
Hmm.
Those are things that I'm going to have to, live through, right? And
Yeah.
I believe that's where the entrepreneurship and just creating a community and hearing other people go through the magnitude of loss that I have went through, to hear like Pusha T and Malice and how they express their feelings, and to hear Malice say, "I had a dad." Like, wow, I had a mother and a father. Like, I would choose them in any lifetime.
Hmm.
Great. And then just realizing what you have, and it's crazy. I don't know if you feel like this, realizing what you have after their transition. Like, dang, I had some dope ass parents. Like, and I'm pretty sure they felt like that too. Yeah. So when you say shaping your grief in the business, let's talk about grief has been how we connected and
Yeah.
created the sisterhood off of the magnitude of loss that we've been through. So I can
Hmm.
just imagine the connection more so than ever through their fans. I'm pretty sure their fans feel like family now,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah, I just, I really hope that it's going to inspire more people to just be open and be honest about, things, because for them to, even the conversation about, oh, they shouldn't have did it. Like some people like, I just started to cry, at the beginning, but it started a conversation, which I think is literally just the most important piece is starting the conversation. And I think, you know, absolutely there are so many things where you're like, okay, your parents aren't here for. And I know for me specifically, it was just like with my dad, the thing was like we were just getting to know each other as people. Like it was like, I would talk to him and be like, how do you feel today? And he's like, oh good. I'm like, no, not how are you? How do you feel? Like, trying to like teach you, like, talk about your feelings, not about just
Yeah,
how your state of mind is at the moment. And it was literally finally where that thing in your mind changed. You're like, oh, your sole purpose in life was not to be my father. Like you were a whole person before I got here, and like what was that like? And I want to know more about who you are, because then that will help me also understand more of how you did certain things, X, Y, and Z. So there are the missing pieces, but I do, because I like to find a silver lining in things, and I know you do
yeah,
too. I think like the big thing, or the biggest blessing, if you could say, the blessings that come out of grief, I feel like I don't know that I would have gone into therapy from a if I would have stuck with it, right? Because
yeah,
I could be very like, oh yeah, okay, cool right now, but I don't think I would have stuck with it. And then obviously, as you know, grief, it's like grief might get you in there, but you gonna have to, they gonna unload, unpack a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like, wait, why we gotta go back to 95?
hmm,
Like, why are we going there right now? So I think just unpacking a lot of that. And then who's to say that the genesis of this business would have been felt like, I don't know that I would be so passionate about something where I know it is my life's purpose to be helping people do things. And then finally, I just think like I've never felt so protected. So even though it's this weirdness of like, okay, being out in the world in a sense feels very like exposed, because it's like, oh my gosh, my parents aren't here. But then it's like remembering what they gave to me,
right,
and also remember knowing that I have like these two guardian angels that are, oh, whenever something is, I'm like, oh, I know they up there working and cutting up. So it's
right,
like helping. That is very, very helpful to help me. But of course, there are days where I'm literally in bed like a rotisserie chicken, like I want my parents. So not all rainbows and sunshine, but there's definitely days that I feel like for the most part I just feel their presence more, and it also makes me be attuned to things so much. Like if I
yeah,
see a hummingbird, I know it's my dad, or I see there's certain little things that I'm like, oh, okay, I know you're here. It like helps me with confirmations
yeah.
along the way on a pretty daily basis. So with that, I just want to offer you like any final words or takeaways that you would like to offer. And also let the people
Um,
know where to find you too, how they could stay
Okay.
in touch.
The final takeaways is for me, going through my grief, I found through the travel of this grief, I found that I illuminate better in the dark. That's the
Mm,
only in the darkness is where I have found my true self, where I have found the truth. and that I illuminate there, and I'm learning the dualities of life, that not only I can shine in the light, but most I can illuminate in the dark as well. Um, I also, through grief, I learned that grief is, it taught me a lot of love. I'm so full of so
Mm,
much love that it's overwhelming at times. And just like you, I feel so protected. I
mhm,
feel when me and my dad had a talk when he was transitioning. He was like, Mick, how you want me to come back? And I was like, I don't know. He was like, a bird. I'm like, what type of bird? He like, a hummingbird.
mm,
I hear hummingbirds before I see them, and if I don't, he will go crazy like girl. So I see hummingbirds. My mother knew I love butterflies. They visit me all the time. I'm aware of things. I hear their voice louder than ever. The principles and the twos and their words of wisdom are louder than ever. But yeah, so I just feel like grief is not a state of being. It's a dark hole where we're traveling through, and that through the journey that we have to be the light through the darkness. And with that being said, I hope that as you go through grief, that you don't stay stuck in it, that you allow it to be your sword in life, because not only is it something that has happened to you, it's something that you have to become acclimated to, because this is going to be your life until the end. But you can find me at I am Face. I am Face acronym, also my 501c3 Face, and Face stands for Fearless Artistic Charisma Elegance. All our information is at Face Saves on our Instagram, where we do multiple things in the city of Inglewood. And thank you again, Camilla, for having me, and sorry for your lost parts for having me. I really appreciated it to share my truth here on this platform.
no worries. Last thing, because I see a question here, and also I was like, ooh, a word. When you said illuminate in the dark, I was like, I need that t-shirt or something. I loved it. But always right O three is asking you, does this mean that you always, when you said that statement, does it also mean that you shine when things are difficult?
I shine what?
When things are difficult, is that what you meant by illuminate in the
I
dark?
feel like I'm thrust into it where God is like, girl, I'm thrust into it where I feel like I find my true self through difficulty.
Mm.
And it's just like, and I find that my blessings are in my fear.
Okay, so you decided to preach today. Thank you so much. You know, good job. You cash app in there too. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, y'all need to know about Miss Myeoshe. She is this big, but extremely mighty. Like, for I personally don't play around anyone under 5'2", but she is the sweetest person, and just always she'll just be talking, and then all of a sudden, as she just did, just drops these gems so suddenly. And you're like, wait a second, do you know what you just said? Because I'm going to write that down and think over it. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I appreciate that this was just a quick exchange, a 5-minute phone call. We just like, yes, we're going to do this. So thank you so much. And I am Camila Crews. I'm the founder of Sorry for Your Lost Cards. You can find me at Sorry for Your Lost Cards on Instagram, or Camila Crews. That's CAMILACREWS. But thank you all so much, and thank you all who stayed tuned in. We really, really appreciate it, and hope that you got something from this. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank
Bye,
you. God
girlies.
bless.
Welcome. Bye.